Hello, hello. This is Deb from Dat Doing's basement studio today and participating in hashtag Spring Clusters, an open collaboration this week all about geometrics. And it's sponsored by Sue at Sue Hiles Art and her compadre Cherie at Turquoise Dreaming. So let's get started. Well, today I started out trying to think about how I wanted to use my clusters, first of all, and what I might potentially need them for would dictate a lot about size and so forth and so on. So I got out fabrics and went through. Naturally, there were lots of checks and stripes and so forth and so on. I even had some florals that probably would have worked. But then I got to thinking about my use of them, and I thought, well, maybe today I'd like to start the cover for a book for a friend of mine. And so I started by going to what I call my fabric flips, and I pulled out my fabric flips bag only to discover I was down to only 4 of them. And I thought, first of all, I think I'm going to show those to you, just to give you some idea of what I call a fabric flip. And I just make these by taking squares of choice sizes and running them in my machine to use some of my decorative stitches and practice on those. You could do the same thing. Here's one that I did with just 4 or 5 stitches. Here's one that I had left that simple, just around the 4 sides and through the middle on a diagonal, and then I made a box. This one is one that's a little more complicated, but it's just because I went round and round, well, square and square, or whatever you want to say, more times. And then on this one, I wanted to practice some of my free stitching. What's the word when you put your little gizmos down? I can't even think of the name of it. But anyway, if you know about that kind of thing, you know what I'm referring to. Anyway, and so then I was also going to show you how I store these. I have just a cardboard tag that's left over from something I purchased, and I keep it all clipped together with a clothespin. And I stick all of that inside what I think of as a bacon wrapper. And then I just label it at the top so it says fabric flips. I love these. I've been using these. They're very durable plastic, and they make for wonderful storage. And it works just great. So today, what I decided I would use is this orange one. I originally, I don't know, I just decided that's what it was going to be. Anyhow, that's what I started with, and that's what I'm going to be working for my base today as we work on these geometric ideas. Anyway, so I'm going to get this out of my way with the fabric flips. Okay, now I've kind of pre-made some of mine so that I can get through this quicker, because I do have 3 or 4 kinds that I wanted to show you. But the base for 3 of these is actually all I did was I went through my stack. I found fabrics that I kind of liked, and I started literally just assembling them by finding the ends of wherever the scrap came from. Goodness. Okay, let's pretend. And then stacking on top, every which way or whatever. Thinking, oh, this looks good. Okay, then I'd take my scissors and I'd whack off and get rid of the pile. Oh dear, I think I've got another one here I gotta whack. I'm getting pretty good at whacking. What do you think? Anyway, and then I'd decide how big I wanted it to be, and I'd pull it up. Okay, like that might just be dandy. So then what I was thinking in terms of is, could I pull this over to kind of cover it and then stitch along to close it, or glue. Now, I've done both things, and either way works. But for what I wanted it for finally, I decided stitching was going to be the best remedy. So I just want you to know, though, I could have glued these all together, had that flip over, and it would have been fine. I could have put the flip over toward the back by just putting these, lining them up, you know, this way, and then flipping it over to the back, and you know, that would work too, either stitching or gluing. The other thing is, if you have a piece like this that's kind of extra long, well, just get creative and think of ways you can use that. So in one of the designs I'm going to show you, I just decided to make it shorter by flipping it up and gluing underneath, sticking something else in it, and using that like a pocket. So, you know, it's just up to your own imagination on all of these things. So let me show you that one first. Well, here, I'll show you this one first. As you can see, I just took fabrics that were geometric in design, thought they were kind of pleasing. Some of them were floral, some of them were lines, and you can see what I did along the edges. Some of them I scalloped, some of them I pinked, and some of them I tore. Just depended on what I wanted to do. Now on this one, let me turn it around, I just used one piece, the outer piece, to go over the back and then stitch across several times. Now, you may have seen me flip through this, and I had a Santa Claus ornament that I wanted as a surprise element, so I literally laid it down there, and then I zigzagged a dozen times over it to be sure I stabilized it, and now it's on the neck, you know, it's on the back, in front of the back piece. So as somebody would flip through this, then at some point, wherever this would be, they'd get a surprise. So now I was thinking in terms of this could be laid on my orange square that I chose to use, like that. And I could have taken it to my machine and sewn across it, or I could have taken some Fabri-Tac and put a line of glue to hold it. And then I could have applied it to whatever I wanted to use it on. The next one I wanted to show you is similarly made, but this one has a few less pieces. But as I started to work with this outside piece that I chose to use was kind of long and it needed to be shortened. I also thought, well, you know, that's a floral piece that's in here, but here's geometric lines in this, and this is geometric symmetry. So if I just fold this up like I showed you a while ago on that other piece, I could have a pocket right in here to tuck something in. And I had this little checkered piece, and I thought, hey, I think I'm just going to roll that up like a cinnamon roll or something that needs to be cut. I'm going to tuck it in here. Then I'm going to get my Fabri-Tac, and I'm going to run just a trace of that. Sorry, I'm not in camera. I guess I better check on that more. Right there, and line that up. And now I have just a little something. Grab this to hold it down with, as a surprise element. Okay. Now the other thing I did for this one, for sort of a semi-surprise, I love these tea tags that have little special messages on them. And I just flipped it over and found kind of a symmetric piece of lace and glued it down with Fabri-Tac. And then I took the string around to the back side, tucked it in underneath this piece of fabric, and glued it down, so that then, you see, it just lays to the back of that. And then as they find it again, just like the Santa, as they flip through this, eventually they're going to see the message. So we'll let that dry for a moment. So that's number 2. And then this one, I wanted to show you, this is the kind of stuff that goes on in my studio all the time. When I'm on a project, I'll just find random stuff, you know, laid together and go, oh, I can make something out of that. Well, here's a piece of felt that one of the days when I was doing these flips, fabric flips, I was just practicing. I saw a piece of felt laying around and I thought, hey, I'm going to try that. And I put the piece of fabric under my machine and tried it, and I thought, oh, I can just make some fun with that. And so you see, it became geometric lines, you might say. And then here was this little geometric bunch of flowers laying against it. And then I found this kind of squirrely piece of scrap that has spirals, and that gave me an idea. So I glued that on, let it get dry, and I'm going to try to show you what I thought I'd do. Is I think if I twist this and just let that kink around, and then again, I got to get some Fabri-Tac ready here. Just going to put a glob here where it can catch it as I'm working. Oh, come on now. Here we go. And I'm going to put that in a couple of places on the bottom and on the top. Hopefully it'll catch it okay. And I'm going to grab that like so and get a little stick to poke it with of sorts. And it should resemble, if you use your imagination. When I was playing with it, I had it looking maybe a little better than this, but it's kind of hard when you're filming. But anyway, I'm sure you'll get the idea. So, ta-da! It should become basically what I call a cabbage rose. I don't know if you're familiar with cabbage roses, but they're kind of a thing from the bygone era, but I still enjoy them. Okay, so we'll just hang on to that for a moment. Okay, there we go. Use your imagination, and there you have a, let's see, maybe you can kind of tell that's a flower. So that's another idea you might try. And then, hope this doesn't fall open. I had this all set for us. Okay, the other thing that's kind of humorous, when I was working on this, thinking I was going to use it for the front cover of a book I was going to start for a lady. She used to be babysitter for our kids when they were little. And I had idea of making this. I took one of these little plastic babies and tucked it around with some fabric so it looked like it was in a blanket, and then I laid it on this piece of geometric lace, and I had visions of, well, you know, I could put that as a topper piece on this piece, and then I could lay all of that and glue it all down to my front. And then I could glue the orange piece down, you see, as for the cover of the book. So I still could do that. But as one thing after another started happening, I thought, gosh, you know, there's no end to this, because I could actually, if I, going back to the idea of on that book, I could layer both of these. Let me get this laid out. So that as she could flip through, this is an 80-year-old woman I'm talking about, she could flip through these fabrics, you know, and have the fun of finding the surprises. And you could tuck anything in, you know, that you could think of that you had. And then there's Santa Claus. Anyway, you know, I thought about that. I even thought about, well, she babysat for our kids, so I could stick the baby on top even. So you see how you can just build and build and build. And this is just my thought on this. Now, okay, let's get real about what I'm really going to do. So I started, oh, here, I was going to show you too. Wait, one more thing. See how you could take two of these things and some way or other put them together, and you could have even a bigger one, or you could cut it down and just have a smaller one. So see how you could do all of that, and there's your geometric everything all flubbed together. Anyway, what I want to do though, for me personally, for my project, I decided instead of working on that book, I would work on my own book. So here's what well, I've got to find. I had this figured out once upon a time. Okay, I hope you can see this. This is my journaling that I started for today, and basically this is just a painted page that I scrubbed some paint on with a card. And I've got one of my created by signs and things. Thought that'd be a fun thing to cover up, but always have it. And then I would put this flip on top. So let's do that first. I've kind of got this measured out. I'm not just guessing at this. I know about where I need it. Okay, in case you were wondering or worrying about it. Okay, and I don't really particularly care if it's on this just with perfect precision, but I assure you it's a little cattywampus on, partly on desire of my own. Now, I think for this, I want to put this one on first. This is the one that had the Santa. And I'm going to lay that on. I thought maybe I'd lay it about here. I'll show you this in a more vertical view pretty quick, but just trust me. And I'm going to have to, in order to let my art journal lay better, I need to put this a little off center. So if you're wondering about that when you look at it straight up, that's why I've done what I've done. Okay, next what I plan to do is put this second layer right on here as well. This way I'll have a sampling of my original ideas. And you know, I kind of liked the way this turned out, so I think I'm going to try to do this too real fast. I think I'm going to put this baby right about there. And I think I'll put that right there. I'm going to be very generous, but it's been my experience with Fabri-Tac. It really does well with these kind of things. I'm going to put this, I made a spot up here maybe. Yeah, I think I'll put that right there. Okay, so now, let's see how that looks. Yeah. Haven't tested this, but let's just try it. So now you see we've got this on the page. Sorry that it's not a real clear picture and it's not very easy to see it. I'll try scooting over into the light. Okay, so there you have it. And then, of course, I need to finish the page up, and I am going to edge it with some pencil and do some writing on it and so forth, but I won't put you through that. Anyway, have fun, enjoy the rest of the collaboration, and hope you've picked up some ideas from me. Bye.